There is a kind of childhood wound that leaves no visible mark. No loud arguments, no obvious crisis, just silence and absence. The empty space where a parent's attention, curiosity, and comfort should have been. This is called childhood emotional neglect. And what makes it so difficult to identify is this. The children who experience it don't grow up thinking something was done to them. They grow up thinking something is wrong with them. They adapt. They develop survival habits that look, from the outside, like personality traits, strengths even. But underneath each one is a child who learned to cope with not being seen. Here are 5 of those habits. Habit 1. Hyper-independence. You handle everything yourself. Your taxes, your problems, your emotional breakdowns, all managed alone, without calling a single person. Society calls this strength. Psychology calls it something different. When a child reaches out for help and consistently meets silence, irritation, or indifference, the brain runs a cold calculation. Asking for help creates pain, so stop asking. Over time, that child deletes the ask for help function entirely from their internal system. As an adult, your hyper-independence is not a personality trait, it is a fortress. And the cost of that fortress is real, because you cannot experience true closeness with someone you refuse to need. Intimacy requires the risk of reliance. If you have never allowed yourself to rely on anyone, you have also never allowed anyone to truly know you.
Habit 2. Not knowing what you feel. Someone asks, "How do you feel about that?" and your mind goes completely blank. This is not evasiveness. In psychology, it is called alexithymia, a reduced ability to identify and describe your own emotions. And for people who grew up with emotional neglect, it is extremely common. Here's why. In a healthy childhood, parents act as emotional mirrors. A toddler cries, and a parent says, "You're frustrated because that toy broke." That simple act labels the feeling and teaches the child that emotions are real and worth acknowledging. In a neglectful home, that mirroring never happens. The child's emotions are either invisible or treated as an inconvenience. So the child learns to disconnect, to cut the wire between what the body feels and what the mind acknowledges. Because feeling things fully, with no one there to help you process them, is simply too much to carry. The result in adulthood is a flat emotional life. You watch others seem deeply connected to their passions and their pain, while you feel like you are observing everything through glass. Habit 3. Compulsive over-explaining. You give a 3-minute explanation for why you were 5 minutes late. You justify which brand of bread you bought. You build a case for every opinion before anyone has questioned it. This comes from growing up in an environment where your needs and choices were not automatically respected. You learned that having a preference required proof, that making a mistake required a defense, that to simply exist without justification was to invite dismissal or criticism. You are not explaining yourself to the person in front of you. You are explaining yourself to a parent who made you feel that your choices needed to be irreproachable before they were acceptable. You are preemptively defending against a judgment that stopped being relevant years ago, but that your nervous system still treats as a live threat.
Habit 4. Chronic self-doubt. You agonize over small decisions. You replay conversations. You ask yourself whether your friends actually like you, whether you said something wrong, whether your read of a situation was correct. This is what happens when a child's reality is consistently dismissed. If you said, "I'm sad," and your parent responded with, "No, you're not, you're just tired," or simply ignored the statement, you learned that your internal compass was unreliable. You stopped trusting your own perception. You started scanning the external world for cues about what was real, what was appropriate, what was safe to feel. That pattern does not disappear in adulthood. It becomes a lifelong habit of seeking reassurance and a chronic inability to feel confident in your own judgment, because the person who was supposed to help you build that confidence was functionally absent. Habit 5. Constant apologizing. You apologize when someone bumps into you. You apologize for asking a question. You apologize for your house being messy when there is a single book out of place. This is not politeness. It is what happens when a child internalizes the belief that their very presence is an imposition. If your parents were chronically exhausted, emotionally unavailable, or simply uninterested, you received a message, not in words but in 100 small moments. Your needs are too much. You are too much. And the safest way to exist is to be as small, as quiet, and as low maintenance as possible. The apology is that smallness made verbal. It is a preemptive strike, apologizing before anyone else gets the chance to confirm what you already believe about yourself.
If you recognized yourself in any of these habits, the first thing to understand is this: there is nothing wrong with you. Your brain did exactly what a brain is supposed to do. It built these patterns to protect you in an environment that wasn't safe enough to be vulnerable in. But that environment no longer exists, and the armor that kept you safe then is now keeping people out. Healing from emotional neglect is not about becoming a different person. It is about slowly, deliberately giving yourself what was never given to you, which is the experience of having your needs treated as valid. That starts smaller than you think. It starts with saying, "I'd prefer Italian tonight," instead of, "I don't mind, you pick." It starts with pausing 3 seconds before apologizing for something that isn't your fault and asking yourself whether you actually did anything wrong. It starts with letting someone help you carry something heavy, not because you need the help physically, but because practicing reliance is how you learn that people can be trusted with small things before you risk trusting them with larger ones. The goal is not to dismantle your independence or become someone who falls apart. The goal is to expand your range, to become someone who can choose to need people, rather than someone who survives by never needing anyone at all. These habits were your armor. They got you here, but you are allowed to take them off now. Not all at once and not permanently, but enough to let someone in, because the people who are meant to be in your life will not see your needs as a burden. They will see them as a way to know you. And you deserve to be known.